I still tell people I don't believe in Santa. It's easier that way. You say you don't believe, everybody laughs. You clink your coffee cups or beer bottles, and the conversation moves on. What I don't tell them is that I know very precisely how much Santa weighs in full gear, how far his boots hang off the edge of a burning roof, and how small he looks when 30 children think they're watching him die. That part doesn't go over as well at holiday parties. I was at my daughter's house last year, actually, when this one came up again. The grandkids had finally crashed. Wrapping paper exploded all over the living room, one kid asleep with a toy fire truck on his chest, the other snoring into a pile of stuffed animals. My daughter was in the kitchen doing dish triage, my son-in-law trying to remember which charger belonged to which new gadget. I was on the couch with a mug of coffee going lukewarm in my hands, staring at their Christmas tree. Right in the middle hung a small, blackened jingle bell on a length of bright red ribbon. Everything else on the tree was shiny store-bought stuff. That bell was the only thing that looked like it had already lived a life before it got there. My oldest grandson, Leo, padded back into the room in those ridiculous dinosaur pajamas kids wear these days. He caught me looking at the bell. "Grandpa," he whispered, "why is that one all burned?" "Because I'm bad at decorating," I said. He rolled his eyes, the way 8-year-olds do when they're sure the grown-ups underestimate their intelligence. "Mom said it's from a fire," he insisted. "She said you took it off Santa's belt." I shot a look toward the kitchen. My daughter pretended not to see. "Did she now?" I muttered. Leo climbed up beside me, serious as an investigator. "Is it true you saved Santa?" There it was. The question that had gotten compressed into family legend over the years. Saved Santa sounded so much nicer than kept 30 kids from watching a man in a red suit fall through a burning roof. I took a sip of cold coffee, more to buy time than anything. "You want the short version?" I asked. "Or the real version?" "The real version," he said immediately, "and no skipping the scary parts. I'm not a baby." I believed him. Besides, there's a certain age where kids are better served by the truth, or at least a version of it with the edges sanded down, so I tapped the jingle bell with one finger. It gave a faint metallic chime, still stubborn after all these years. "All right," I said, "but you have to remember something while you listen." "What?" "Sometimes the people you think are magic are just people. And sometimes the people you think are just people have to do something that looks a lot like magic." He frowned, working through that, then nodded. I leaned back on the couch, listening to the rain ticking against the window. It wasn't a snow year, and let myself fall back to one particular Christmas Eve. It was 3 years before I retired, and I was stuck on Christmas Eve shift at Station 47. Most people think being on duty that night is miserable. It's not, really. You get used to holidays moving around. Thanksgiving on a Tuesday, Christmas breakfast at 3 p.m. the next day, birthday cake, eaten out of styrofoam trays between calls. You adapt. That year we decorated the bay as much as the chief would tolerate. There was a sad little artificial tree on a table between the recliners. Ornaments mostly made out of hose gaskets and odds and ends from the shop. Someone had rigged red and green lights along the handrails of the engine until the safety officer made them take the bulbs off the grab bars. We'd done our family dinner early. Overcooked ham, instant mashed potatoes, somebody's famous green bean casserole that probably violated the Geneva Conventions. We had paper plates stacked next to the sink, mismatched holiday cups half full of cooling coffee, and the TV playing an old movie nobody was really watching. You know, Ortiz said, licking gravy off his thumb. I still haven't gotten an actual chimney call. Been on this job 8 years. 0 chimneys. Give it time, I said. You'll get one. Then you'll be begging never to see creosote again. Across the room, Rookie Everett was trying, and failing, to tape a paper snowflake to the whiteboard where we usually wrote the day's training schedule. Captain, can we put out cookies for Santa? He asked Morales with a perfectly straight face. Only if you leave him a waiver for ladder safety, Morales replied without looking up from his crossword. You put a guy on a 3-story roof with no harness, that's a liability nightmare. We all laughed. You tell enough Santa jokes in a firehouse, you start to forget how fast a punchline can turn into a report. The tones dropped just as I was going back for seconds on dessert. The speakers on the wall crackled, then came that flat mechanical voice that has yanked us out of more meals, naps, and showers than I can count. Engine 47, Ladder 3, Battalion 2. Respond to a reported structure fire, 212 Oakview. Multiple callers. Mixed use, 3 stories. Fire from 1st floor. Possible victims trapped. Caller reports. Santa Claus is on the roof. The bay went completely still. Forks hovered in midair. Somebody's soda can hissed as it tipped. Did she just say Santa? Everett blurted. In the rig now. Morales snapped. All humor gone. If dispatch is joking, I'll yell at them later. The jokes died the second the call became real. That's another rule. It doesn't matter how ridiculous the details sound over the radio. If someone was scared enough to say them, you take them seriously. We grabbed our gear in that practiced blur. Bunker pants up, suspenders over shoulders, coat, hood, helmet. I swung into the engineer's seat, hands already moving through the dance of switches and knobs. As the bay door rolled up, I caught one last glimpse of our lopsided tree. The handmade star on top was just a bent metal coat hanger with a bit of foil. I remember thinking, don't let that thing be the symbol for this night. Then we were out into the cold. Christmas Eve streets are weird. You get pockets of absolute stillness where everyone's already inside, lights glowing behind curtains, and then sudden bursts of life. Last-minute shoppers, people spilling out of bars in ugly sweaters, cars packed with kids who are still vibrating from sugar and anticipation as we rolled toward Oakview, sirens wailing. I saw all of that smeared into streaks of color through the windshield. Dispatch updated us en route. Engine 47, callers report heavy smoke from 1st and 2nd floor windows. One caller states an adult male in Santa costume was on the roof as fire grew, now not seen moving. Second caller reports elderly female unable to self-evacuate from 3rd floor, PD en route to traffic control. Santa and Grandma, Ortiz muttered from the back. Full holiday combo. Focus on the Grandma, Morales replied. Santa will have ladder. What if the kids are still inside the toy store? Everett asked, voice tight. Then you'll get your chimney call and a toy store call in the same night, I said, eyes open. We swung onto Oakview and saw how bad it really was. The street was a mess of red and blue lights already. Patrol cars, an ambulance that happened to be nearby, neighbors' Christmas decorations competing with the emergency glow. Snow crusted the sidewalks in dirty heaps where it had been plowed earlier, but a thin, fresh dusting had started to fall again, swirling through the smoke like ash. The building at 212 Oakview was an old brick thing trying to pretend it was upscale. Big arched windows on the first floor, fancy molding that had seen better decades. Down at street level, a toy store's display window was already cracked and glowing orange behind a hand-painted sign that said, North Pole Express, family-owned since 1983. Above, second-floor apartment windows belched smoke, curtains fluttering like they were trying to escape. Third floor looked better from the front, but smoke still pushed out around the frames, and on the roof, framed against the rolling gray, lay a shape in red. He was sprawled near the A-side edge, half tangled in a string of holiday lights that had gone from cheerful to charred. One leg dangled over the parapet, boot hanging empty space. Even from street level, you could tell he wasn't moving. At the corner, a knot of kids in winter coats stood behind a loose line of adults. Some cried, some just stared, their faces lit by a mixture of reflected flame and the blue pulse from our light bars. One little voice cut through everything, higher than the sirens. "Santa, get up." My stomach clenched. Joke or not, that was a bad thing for a child to have to yell. We pulled past the building to leave room for the ladder truck, angled in so the pump panel would be away from the heat. I set the brake, popped the rig into pump gear, and felt the familiar rumble as the big water tank came to life. Morales was already doing his size up, talking into his radio. Battalion 2 from Engine 47. We have a 3-story mixed use. Fire showing first floor alpha. Heavy smoke, second and third. One confirmed victim on roof, unresponsive, entangled in what looks like decorative lighting. PD controlling crowd. Unknown number of occupants still inside. Engine 47 stretching initial attack to first floor, then advancing to stairwell for primary to third. Advise ladder 3 victim. Priority on roof. Copy 47. Battalion replied, voice coming from the chief's SUV that had screeched in behind us. Ladders 2 minutes out. You have command until I'm set up. That meant the usual dance. We'd put water on the fire until the boss fully arrived. Then he'd take the big picture while we focused on our slice. As I finished getting water from the hydrant, I felt someone grab at my sleeve. Please, please, he's still up there. It was a woman in a puffy jacket, streaked with soot, hair wild under a knit hat, eyes blown wide. She kept looking up at the roof and then back at me, like she couldn't decide which direction her panic should go. "Ma'am, step over here," I said, steering her out of the hose path. "Who's up there?" "My brother," she gasped. "Ricky. He was doing the Santa thing for the kids. He does it every year, but the lights, they... Okay. Anyone else in the building?" "My mom," she choked. Third floor, back corner. She couldn't make it down the stairs. It filled with smoke. I tried going back, but... Her voice broke completely. "You did the right thing," I said. "What's your mom's name?" "Rosa. She uses oxygen. She can't." I squeezed her shoulder. "All right, listen. We're going in for her now. You stay with the medics so they know who to look for." I keyed my radio. Command from Engine 47, confirming one elderly female on third floor rear, on oxygen, unable to self-evacuate. Building rep states that's only known occupancy beyond roof victim. "Copy," Battalion said. "Get that line in place. Ladder 3 is on scene." The ladder truck ground to a stop. Outriggers already swinging out before the driver had even fully set the brake. Their crew spilled out, heads tilting up toward the roof. "Okay, boys and girls," Morales said, his voice calm in the way you only get after you've been doing this a long time. Sam, you and Ortiz take the 1.75 through the toy store. Knock down what you can and protect the stairs. Everett, you're with them. Watch and learn, but you're not leading anything. I'll coordinate with ladder and battalion. Copy, we chorused. I grabbed the nozzle, Ortiz and Everett, flaking hose behind me as we pushed for the toy store door. It was already spider-cracked. A closed for Christmas, see you next year sign dangling by one corner, scorched around the edges. We masked up just before we went in. The air change is always a little jarring. The cold night replaced by the rubber and plastic smell inside the mask, the reassuring rush of air from the regulator. Then we opened the door and stepped into a different world. Toy stores burn mean. It's not just the heat. It's the nostalgia getting torched alongside the plastic. Shelves that probably made kids gasp 2 hours earlier were now half collapsed, their cardboard boxes slumping as the ink ran. Stuffed animals smoldered, synthetic fur curling away from blackened faces. A row of dolls stared from melted plastic windows, eyes fogged with soot. The fire had started near the back, where someone had built a North Pole display with fake snow, plywood, and far too many cheap extension cords. The entire corner was a blackened crater now, flames chewing through the last of the decorations and licking up the wall. We opened the line and hit it hard, water slamming into flame with that deep whoosh that's half sound, half feeling. Steam rolled back at us in big white clouds, stealing visibility even as it stole the fire's heat. Ceiling, I shouted, and Ortiz swung his pike pole up, knocking out overhead tiles. Flaming debris dropped down in clumps. We hit that, too, chasing every orange tongue, trying to make a run for it. Everett stayed just behind, helping manage the hose, eyes wide behind his mask. He'd been to work in fires before, but every first-time scenario has its own flavor of terror. You watching that smoke? I asked him over the radio, partly to keep him engaged, partly to assess his brain state. Yeah, he said, a little breathless. It's, getting darker. Good. That means we're winning in here. But it's also pushing upstairs, so we move. Once the worst of the fire in the store was knocked down, we advanced toward the rear, looking for the stairwell door. It was where every old building puts it, in the most inconvenient corner possible. The metal door was hot, but not glowing. I cracked it, took a quick peek. Smoke boiled down, but there was no fire on the first run yet. We closed it again to stage. Command Engine 47. I called. Main body of fire in the toy store is darkening down. We have access to interior stairs. Smoke, but no flame visible on lower flights. Starting primary search up toward 3rd floor for Rosa. Copy, 47. Battalion answered. Use caution. Ladder reports. Roof is involved at the rear. We may have compromised decking over part of that stairwell. Understood, I said. To the crew, mask discipline, stay low. If anything feels wrong under your feet, you say so out loud. We pushed into the stairwell. Stairwells are supposed to be safe. In training, they tell you, if you're lost, find the stairs. In a good building with working doors and no idiots propping them open, they can act like chimneys, but at least they're predictable. This one had been propped open on almost every landing with chunks of wood and old phone books. That meant smoke moved freely, turning the shaft into a vertical river of darkness. We went up anyway. On the 2nd floor landing, the heat started to bite, pushing down in a thick cushion. I swung my light up through the smoke, catching glimpses of painted walls, door numbers, family photos still hanging in the hall like oblivious witnesses. Listen for alarms, I reminded Everett. Smoke detectors, CO detectors, anything. I don't hear any, he said after a second, uneasy. That's the point, Ortiz muttered. Nobody changes batteries. Third floor was worse. Visibility shrank to the length of my arm. The heat soaked through the gear at my shoulders, telling me there was more fire above and behind the walls than we'd seen from the street. Morales' voice crackled in our ears. Engine 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47,
47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, 47, ladder 3. We're setting up the aerial
On the Alpha Bravo corner. Roof victim is near that edge, face down, tangled in lighting. Roof is spongy toward the Charlie side. Heavy fire and probable collapse over the toy store. We'll try to reach him with 2 members in the bucket. If you find roof access from inside and can free those lights from below, that'd help. I pictured the scene above us. Nighttime wind whipping smoke. The ladder bucket swinging in. 2 silhouettes trying to grab a third that didn't want to move. Copy. Ladder, I answered. We'll get Rosa first. Then we'll see what we can do for your Christmas decoration. Rosa's apartment, according to her daughter, was the back corner. We followed the hallway, staying oriented off the stairwell door like it was home base. Even after all those years, I still hate searches in that kind of smoke. Your world shrinks to little slices, 1 doorway at a time, 1 piece of furniture, 1 unexpected drop-off where a floorboard has burned through. First door was locked. The Halligan popped it with 2 good hits. Inside was an empty studio, TV still playing a holiday show to no one. Stockings on the wall, stockings on the floor, stockings halfway melted on an electric heater that, thankfully, hadn't yet set anything else off. Second door was ajar, apartment empty except for a barking dog in a crate. Everett hesitated. We don't have time, Ortiz said, reading his mind. We'll send someone to cut him out when we're done. Third door had a cheap wooden wreath with Rosa painted on a little plaque, a faded picture of the Virgin tucked in the corner. Found her, I said. I banged at the door with my gloved fist. Fire department, Rosa, call out. A faint sound came through, something between a cough and a word. Take it, I told Ortiz. He set the Halligan, drove it home, and the frame gave up. Heat spilled over us, making the lenses of my mask momentarily fog. The apartment walls were still mostly intact, but smoke had settled thick and low. A crocheted blanket on the couch smoldered where a chunk of ceiling had dropped, ember holes spreading slowly. I hit the blanket with a quick blast from the nozzle, then swung my light around. Oxygen concentrator, Everett said, spotting the machine toppled by the recliner. We heard another cough from deeper in. Bedroom, I said. Go. Rosa was on the floor by the bed, half under the window, fingers hooked around the fallen concentrator's tubing, like she'd been trying to pull herself back up. Her hair was white and wild, face pale under a mask of soot. The cannula still looped around her ears, but the tubing was kinked and melted. Her chest rose in shallow, desperate pulls. I knelt beside her. Hi, Rosa, I said, even though she probably couldn't hear clearly through the mask and the noise. We're here. We're taking you out. Her eyes flicked to mine, then to the ceiling. Her hand twitched upward, pointing. Santa, she wheezed, voice raw. Mi hijo. My son. Everett translated over the radio automatically. Bilingual crew had its perks. Your son is being taken care of, I told her. We've got people on him. We need to get you out right now. She tried to shake her head, but we were already moving. Ortiz got under her shoulders. I took her legs. She weighed almost nothing, like all the years had already been hollowed out of. Her. Engine 47 to command. I grunted, As we maneuvered her through the door, we have Rosa, third floor rear, semi-conscious, bringing her down the interior stairs for EMS. Conditions on third are hot but passable for now. After handoff, we'll attempt roof access via stair hatch if possible. Copy 47. Battalion responded. Ladder is still working the roof victim. Be advised we've got fire extension into the second floor ceiling toward the street side. Watch for drop down. Right on cue, something above the hallway groaned. We got Rosa to the stairwell landing just as a piece of plaster the size of a coffee table collapsed behind us, smacking the floor with a wet crunch. The line dragged tight for a second as debris knocked into it. Move, 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 I said, as if we needed the encouragement. On the way down, we ran into a crew from Engine 12, coming up with a backup line and a thermal camera. We've got your grandma, Ortiz told them. Stairs are clear for now, but the third floor hallway's losing pieces. Keep your heads on a swivel. They helped us ferry Rosa down to the second floor, then the first. By the time we burst back into the lobby, the air tasted like outside again, cold and sharp. Medics were waiting at the door. We passed her off to them, giving the quick rundown. Age, condition, oxygen user, time under smoke. Her daughter appeared as if summoned, sobbing thank yous in rapid-fire Spanish as the medics loaded Rosa into the ambulance. I watched them go for half a second, feeling that little click in my chest that always came when someone you'd just carried was finally out of your hands and into someone else's. Then I looked up at the roof again. Santa was still there. Or at least he hadn't come down in any recognizable form. All right, I said to Ortiz and Everett. Time to go try and unwrap a very stupid Christmas present. We pushed back into the stairwell, following our own hose line like a lifeline. The heat on the upper flights had gotten worse in the short time we were gone, which meant the roof fire was growing and likely chewing through structural members. At the very top of the stairwell, we found the roof hatch and its short steel ladder. The underside of the hatch glowed faintly in spots, heat radiating through. We cooled the area with short bursts from the nozzle, water hissing as it turned to steam. Then I eased the hatch open a few inches. Immediately, dark, angry smoke poured down, trying to fill every available space. Through the gap, I could see orange light reflecting off something metal and moving, a ladder bucket, and feel gusts of colder outside air. More importantly, I saw a pair of boots. They were hanging through the hatch opening, heels resting on the frame, legs angled upwards, like someone lay on their stomach above. Half over the hole, the boots were big, black, trimmed with singed white fur. You couldn't pay for symbolism like that. They twitched weakly as the weight shift above. Command Engine 47, I called. We've reached the roof hatch. We've got eyes on the roof victim's legs. Looks like he's caught on something just above the hatch opening. Conditions are haughty but manageable for a brief operation. Ladder 3 chimed in a second later. Engine 47, ladder. We've got him partially onto the bucket, but there's a mass of wiring or lights pulling him back toward the edge. We can't see where it's anchored. If you can cut it from below, we can haul him clear and clear off this roof. Deck's getting soft. We're not staying much longer. Ricky's voice came through, thin and tinny in the background, half through the radio, half through the open hatch. Can't breathe, not letting me move. You're doing fine, big guy, someone on ladder soothed. Just a little more. Don't fight us. You hear me, Ricky? I shouted up through the smoke. "It's Engine 47. We got your mom out. She's downstairs with the medics. She's breathing good air. You focus on doing what these guys tell you." His boots stilled for a second, like the message had cut through. Then they started moving again, smaller, less panicked. "Okay," he coughed. "Okay." We got closer to the opening, hugging the sides to get out of the worst of the heat. The tangled trapping Ricky was a mess of melted light strings, cable ties, and what looked suspiciously like a coax cable some genius had run across the roof years ago and then forgotten. The whole bundle had cinched tight around his belt and upper thighs, anchoring him to a point just beyond our line of sight. I wedged myself on the top stair, feeling the metal of the ladder rungs vibrate under my knee as Ladder 3 adjusted the bucket above. "Ortiz, keep the line on the decking around the hatch, quick bursts. Don't drown the—" "Man," I said. "Everett, you're my extra eyes. If anything looks like it's about to fall, yell." "What about me?" he asked. "You get to be the one who tells the kids later that Santa lived," I said. "That's important work." I pulled out my multi-tool and the Halligan. The melted plastic around Ricky's waist was fused into something like brittle black stone. I used the adze of the Halligan to pry at one section, feeling for give. "Hold still," I called up. "If you kick me in the face, I'm putting you on the naughty list personally." There was a weak chuckle from above. Yes, sir." The first loop broke with a sharp snap, jerking his legs downward an inch. Ladder's guys grunted as they took the extra load. "We've got more weight," their officer called. "Feels like you're winning something down there." "Maybe," I muttered. I found another spot where the cable bundle thinned, where a cord had melted away from the rest, and started sawing with the cutters on my tool. The copper inside was hot, but soft. One strand, two, three, each one letting out a little metallic ping as it went. "You good up there?" I yelled between cuts. Ricky coughed. "My beard's on fire, but my butt's cold. That normal?" "Perfectly normal," I said, cutting the last piece. "All right, Ladder. He's free on this side. All yours." For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ricky's legs rose slowly out of the hatch as the aerial crew leaned back and dragged him fully into the bucket. Ladder 3 to command. Victim freed in the bucket, coming off the roof. "We're clearing the roof. Deck is going soft." Almost immediately afterward, we heard it. A low, shuddering groan from above, as some major part of the roof structure gave way, where the toy store had burned hottest. The sound crawled down the walls into my teeth. "Time to go," I said, more calmly than I felt. Stairs now. We closed the hatch as much as we could on the way down, not because it would stop the fire. We all knew better than that, but because it felt like closing the door on a job completed. By the time we reached the second-floor landing, a huge plume of sparks shot into the night behind us, lighting up the stairwell windows like fireworks. From somewhere outside, a chorus of kids screamed and then cheered. I couldn't resist peeking through the lobby door as we came out. The roof over the toy store had collapsed inward, sending up a geyser of flame and embers. The ladder bucket was already swinging down. Ricky slumped in it like a marionette whose strings had been cut. The kids at the police line were jumping up and down despite their parents' attempts to hold them back, faces streaked with tears and smoke. One little girl in a pink hat waved both arms. "Santa!" As the bucket reached the ground, Ricky lifted one unburned hand and gave them a thumbs up. The cheer that followed was louder than any siren. Once the rescues are done, the rest of the night is the unglamorous part. We spent another couple of hours chasing hot spots through the building, opening walls where the thermal camera showed heat, dragging out soggy insulation, stomping on stubborn embers in corners. Engine 12's crew cut the barking dog out of its crate and carried it down to be reunited with a very relieved owner. Someone shut off the power to the building entirely before any more old wiring could make a play for attention. By 3 a.m., we were in the salvage phase, helping residents carry out what they could. Smoke had done worse than the flames in most of the apartments. Clothes, photos, little Christmas trees that had been standing proudly in front windows that morning. They all reeked of burned plastic and soaked sheetrock. In the middle of it all, kids kept glancing at the ambulances where Ricky and Rosa were being treated. Rosa looked small on the stretcher, but she was talking now, gesturing animatedly with her hands as she scolded her children for not throwing away those extension cords last summer, like she'd told them. The oxygen mask fogged and cleared, fogged and cleared. Ricky was sitting up in a different ambulance, burns on his hand being dressed, eyebrows mostly gone. Under the soot and melted fake beard, his face looked both younger and older at the same time. When I walked over, he squinted at me. Without the hat, his hair stuck up in sweaty tufts. "You the one who cut me loose?" he rasped. "One of them," I said. "You did most of the work hanging on." He stuck out his unbandaged hand. "Name's Ricky Morales. No relation to your captain?" he already asked. He grinned weakly. "I'm the idiot who thought fireworks and roof lights were a good combo." "Could have been worse," I said. "You could have thought candles were a good idea on the curtains." He winced, half in pain, half in agreement. "I've been doing that Santa roof walk for 6 years," he said. "Kids look forward to it. I figured, one last lap before midnight. Then the fireworks start from the river, and next thing I know, sparks are hitting the display. The fake snow goes up like gasoline, and I'm trying to stomp it out in boots that are basically slippers." He looked down at his suit, now more scorch mark than fabric. "I guess we're done with the roof show," he added. "Not necessarily," I said. "You just have to do it smarter." I jerked my chin toward the building. "Maybe after the rebuild we find a safer way. Anchor points, rated cords, fire marshal sign-off. Santa goes OSHA compliant." He snorted. "That doesn't sound very magical." "You'd be surprised," I said. "Ask those kids if tonight looked like magic when you got dragged off that roof." His eyes drifted to the crowd. Some families had already left for temporary shelter. Others milled around, wrapped in Red Cross blankets. A boy in glasses stood with his father, clutching a stuffed bear. The toy's fur was smudged gray, but otherwise unscathed. I thought he was going to die. The boy was telling his dad, voice still shaking. Santa was on fire, and then the firefighters went in, and then he waved. "Hey," Ricky said softly, watching. "You ever wonder what happens to kids after something like this? Whether it messes them up?" "All the time," I answered. Then I remember they also saw 30 strangers run toward a fire while everyone else ran away. That matters. He was quiet for a moment. Then he rooted in the pocket of his ruined coat and pulled something out. It was a jingle bell, about the size of a walnut, blackened on one side. The little metal loop at the top was twisted, like it had been yanked hard. "This fell off my belt while I was stuck," he said. "I heard it hit something down by the hatch. I thought, well, that's it. Even my bell's leaving me." But then I felt you guys grabbing at the cords, and I thought. He shrugged, wincing. I thought maybe I was wrong. He held it out to me. I can't take that, I said automatically. It's your costume, your tradition. Take it, he insisted. Call it a favor. You carry that, and every time you hear it, you remember there's at least one dumb Santa out there who owes you his life. I hesitated, then took it. It felt heavier than it looked. Deal, I said. But seriously, if you ever put those same lights back up, I'm sending the building inspector instead of the ladder truck. That earned a real laugh, even if it ended in a cough. We finally got cleared from the scene a little before dawn. Back at the station, we dragged ourselves out of the rig like old men, even the youngest among us. Turnout gear went back on the racks, smelling like every other fire we'd ever worked, with just a hint of melted peppermint this time. Everett flopped into a chair in the day room, eyes still wide. Do we talk about it? He asked. About what? Morales said, making himself a fresh cup of coffee. I mean the kids, Everett said. Them watching, him hanging there, Rosa on the floor, the roof coming down right after you got off it. That felt close. Close is still alive, I said, dropping into the recliner next to him. If it ever stops feeling close, that's when you worry. He nodded slowly, taking that in. You did good, I added. Kept your head, kept your mouth shut except when it mattered. I almost went for that dog, he admitted. You'll get plenty of dogs, Ortiz called from the sink. That one got out anyway. You got out 2 humans and 1 local legend. I'd call that a pretty decent night. Morales set his coffee down, looked around at us, and said, Anybody want to start a pool on how long before the news runs with Firefighters Save Santa? Too late, I replied, holding up my buzzing phone. A push alert lit the screen. High-rise holiday heroes. Santa rescued from blazing roof. I put the phone face down. They always make it sound easier than it was. That's their job, Morales said. Ours is to be there the next time someone sets up a roof full of fireworks next to extension cords. He wasn't wrong. In the years that followed, that night turned into one of those calls that kept getting retold at the station. New rookies would hear a half-true version over coffee, then the more detailed one during late-night conversations when the bay was dark and the rain beat on the roof. Ricky and Rosa both recovered. Rosa moved to a ground-floor apartment closer to her daughter's place. Ricky kept up the Santa thing, but with modifications, a proper harness, new code-compliant lights, a live safety briefing every year from the Fire Prevention Bureau. The kids came back, too. Some of the ones who'd watched that first time brought younger siblings later, pointing out exactly where Santa had almost gone over, in whispers that carried as much awe as fear. Every Christmas Eve, if I wasn't on duty, I'd drive by Oakview. From the street, the rebuilt toy store, now a coffee shop and gift boutique, because insurance and economics don't care about nostalgia, glowed warm behind new, tempered glass. The roof had a railing now and a bright red anchor point bolted into the parapet where the building inspector could see it and smile. Santa would stroll along that railing, harness clipped, waving at kids. Sometimes he'd step carefully near the spot where the roof had given way years before. If you knew what to look for, you could see the extra caution in his stride. One year, a little boy in a firefighter costume stood front row, plastic helmet askew, yelling up, "Hey, Santa, my grandpa says he saved you." Ricky, beard whiter and belly a little rounder now, laughed so hard his shoulders shook. Well, then your grandpa's the real magic, isn't he? He called down. The kid looked over his shoulder at me, eyes bright. See? I told you. I just shook my head and waved, the jingle bell in my pocket bumping gently against my keys. Back on the couch in my daughter's living room, Leo listened to all of this with his knees pulled up, blanket forgotten around his shoulders. His hot chocolate had gone cold on the coffee table. So you didn't exactly save Santa, he said, when I finished. You saved a guy named Ricky, but to the kids, he was Santa. That about sums it up, I replied, and you saved his mom. He thought for a second, and the dog, and the building, and you didn't die. We try not to make a habit of dying on calls, I said. He was quiet for a long moment, gaze fixed on the blackened bell hanging on the tree. Were you scared? He asked finally. Of course, I said. Anyone who tells you they're never scared at a fire is either lying or too dumb to stay on the job. What do you do when you're scared? You do the next thing, I said. The next correct thing you've trained for. Open this door, pull that line, search that room, cut that cable. You don't worry about all the things that might happen in 10 minutes. You worry about the thing right in front of your face. And sometimes the thing in front of your face is Santa's butt, he said, trying not to smile. Exactly, I said. Very serious work. He laughed, then sobered. Do you think any of those kids became firefighters? I hope so, I said. We always need people who, when they see smoke, don't just stand there filming it on their phones. Leo slid off the couch, padded over to the tree, and reached up for the bell. He didn't touch it, just looked at it. Can I have that one day? He asked. Like when I'm older? Why? I asked. So I don't forget, he said simply. That you did something like that. I watched him for a moment, that skinny kid in dinosaur pajamas, and thought about the boy in glasses on Oakview, crying into his dad's coat. You can have it, I said, but there's a condition. Okay, he said immediately. What? If you ever end up hanging from a roof in a Santa suit, you're not allowed to tell people you're related to me. He snorted. I'm gonna be the one cutting people down, he declared, not the one hanging. Then you'd better start doing your homework, I said. Physics, math, PE. Fires don't care what night it is. They just care how well you understand how they work. He nodded solemnly, as if I'd just given him secret instructions to a clubhouse. From the kitchen, my daughter called, What are you two plotting in there? Grandpa says I can save Santa too one day. Leo shouted back. My daughter stuck her head in, saw the look on my face, and sighed. Could you maybe start with cleaning your room, future hero? Leo rolled his eyes, but he was still smiling as he headed down the hall. I leaned back, listening to the chaos of a house full of kids and wrapping paper, and looked one more time at the blackened bell on the tree. People think the job is all about the big fires, the dramatic rescues. And sure, those are the stories that get turned into headlines and family legends. But really, it's about something quieter. Showing up on the worst night of someone's life and doing the next right thing, even when it's scary, even when it's absurd, even when he's wearing a red suit and the whole neighborhood is watching. Believe in Santa or don't. That's your call, me. I believe in the sound that little bell makes when it rings on a Christmas Eve, somewhere between the sirens and the kids' cheers. Because that sound means one simple thing. For at least one more year, we all got a little bit more time.